Hi, my name is Mike Robertson, and today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the basics of using a wood lathe. So I suppose to start off, I should probably start off by talking about some basic terminology, what's what, just so you understand what I'm talking about. This whole end piece here is called the tail stock. This is called the head stock. We've got the tool rest and the bed of the lathe. This is a 42-inch lathe. That's the length of the bed, and we fit about a 1 foot diameter turning on this particular lathe. Now these centers here, this is called a spur center, little spurs on it. It just fits using a Morse taper inside of the headstock. We also have a live center. A live center turns. So this one, you probably can't see it from there, but the end tip here is turning. Some people in the past, they confuse a live center and dead center. And I've heard a lot of people call this a dead center for some reason. A dead center is actually something that goes in the tail stock that doesn't move. A lot of cheaper lathes or older lathes have dead centers, and ends up burning the stock a lot. I don't really like it. A few other basic things you're probably going to have. This is a small chuck. Goes on here. We're not going to talk about that today. Different size mandrels. Go in the chuck and the headstock. So pretty easy to use. The tools, the basic tools you're probably going to have at most schools would be a parting tool. A parting tool you use vertically on the tool rest. A round nose. And same thing, the taper goes down. Okay, so the sharp edge would engage the wood on the top side of the tool. There's a skew. Same thing, the skew generally you use on its side, okay, because there's a tapered edge on each surface. And then the gouge. This is a spindle gouge. This you normally use for the initial rounding, roughing of the surface. Alright, a few other basics. When we're turning stock on here, you always want to make sure that if you're wearing a tie or any tassels from a hoodie or hair, that your tie's put away, tassels are tucked inside your hooded sweatshirt, your hair's tied back. You can't have any loose or sloppy clothing, anything around, anything that turns in here, the lathe, the drill press, anything like that. For anything that we're turning on here, the larger the diameter turning, the slower you want to go. So regardless of what size the turning is, if it's square, if it's not cylindrical, you want to start off at a fairly slow speed and slowly work your way up. Now on this particular lathe, it's just got a step pulley here. You adjust it by hand. Some of the newer lathes use the VFD, it's just an electronically controlled speed. Older ones, it's belt driven speed control. Any of those methods are perfectly acceptable. So, in regards to the tool rest here, we're going to be using this 90% of the time when we're turning between centers. Now, if we are sanding on the outside or inside, either way, if we're freestanding on the lathe, you're going to want to remove this tool rest. The tail stock, you're always going to want to keep on, unless we're doing maybe something chucked up or a face plate turning, but 90% of the time, for beginners, we're always going to be using the tail stock as well. So how do we go ahead and get a piece of stock mounted between centers on here? Well, I've got a chunk of maple. I went ahead and found centers. You can draw a line corner to corner. And I like cutting in, at least for beginners. You can go ahead and cut them. Use a pull saw, back saw, something just to kind of get a nice little groove, especially in a hardwood. It's kind of difficult sometimes to get older rounded spur centers into these things. Now, some people, again, I have a lot of students that will set it up in the bed of the lathe, and they go ahead and try to hammer this in here with a regular hammer or something like that. Don't ever pound on a cast surface, so we shouldn't do that. Secondly, you don't want to hammer on these with a regular hammer. They will peen over this edge, and it will eventually get to the point where it's hard to fit that Morse taper in tight. So use a rawhide hammer, a rubber mallet, a wooden mallet, something like that. And I always just tell everybody, hey, just go down to the concrete floor and go ahead and tap this center in. Get it lined up as close to the center as possible. tailstock. Bring the tailstock in. Tighten up the tailstock. And again, normally there's always two positions to tighten up. One tightens up the entire tailstock. And the next lock will just move this whole quill assembly in. You can just snug that up. Alright, in terms of tool rest, we want to go ahead and get this tool rest moved in as close as possible without actually hitting it. And just initially, height-wise, we set it up about on the midline of your turning. Alright, I'll give it a couple spins, make sure we're not contacting anything. Pretty good. Alright, so we said, once again, initial rounding, you'll use this spindle gouge. And the other thing is, if you're ever doing the inside of a bowl or a cup or any kind of hollow vessel, you never ever use the spindle gouge. Okay? They make special gouges, a bowl gouge for that. It's a little tighter curve and it sweeps back on the edges. So don't use a regular spindle gouge on the inside, basically end grain. Don't want to use that. So we'll go ahead and make sure we have some safety glasses on. Now I put the cards down when you're using them, and I'll leave them up just so we can see what's going on. If you have any stock that's larger than, say, about 2 inches like this, you're going to want to go ahead and knock these corners off on a jointer, or even sand them off, or even tilt the table on a bandsaw and knock the corners off. It'll save you a lot of time and it'll be a lot less dangerous. So we're going to get fairly slow right now. Holding on to your tool, if you're right-handed, I like to hold on to the tool about midway with my right hand and put the handle of the tool underneath my forearm so if it catches, nothing will happen. Now, my left arm, I'll grab the tool just like this, with right up between my index finger and thumb. I'll point my finger, use it as a guide on the tool rest. You want to go kind of slow when you engage the tool. Very, very light touch. To the right, I'll angle to the right. From the left, and to the left. I like to work mostly to the right so the chips all go up in that direction. When I'm using this, I like to look on the top edge. And you can kind of see a mirror image, and when you see a mirror image, you know that you're not quite round yet. Also, it doesn't sound smooth. You can hear that. You can hear it hitting all the corners. So we're not smooth yet. Okay, you can see flats on all the sides. Starting to get a lot closer now. Some spots were actually around. Alright, now we'll take a minute. You can see we're actually pretty round for the most part. Going a little bit closer. Just a little bit more. So initial rounding, I would always use the gouge. For your basic sets, I would use the round nose for any initial profiles you may want to make a combination. Your basic set is probably only going to have these 4 tools. And we can finish that up with this skew. Also, the rounder you get it, the faster you want to go. The smoother it cuts, you want to go a little faster, lighter, and you can get rid of some of the chip out. up a little bit. Okay, so it's visibly quite smooth on the right-hand side in comparison with the roughness of the left-hand side. Now, if you don't have a spear point or some other tools, you can put a lot of profiles in even with a skewer. Put a couple large beads just so you can see my camera here. And if I want to put a very smooth surface on here, I will change the belts, go a lot quicker, and take lighter cuts. You also want to sand this quite a bit more. Now if you want to sand this, we're not putting much of a profile on here, but we'll take this tool rest right away. Probably start around 150 grit. You can work your way up as high as you want. I'm not going to use the dust collector on right now, it gets quite loud, but normally you'd always use the dust collector for this. Never wrap the sandpaper around your fingers and keep moving, okay? If this were to get caught, it could really hurt when the sandpaper rips off your fingers. And this gets quite hot quite fast, so just keep moving. Alright, I'm not going to work my way all the way through the grits, but like I said, start up at 150, go to 220, 300, 400. I don't really see a need to go much higher than 400. A lot of people do, and you can if you want, that's fine. These aren't very symmetric. If you want it to be fairly symmetric, I would set it up and use calipers. I've even used a pattern before and spaced it all out, both in terms of diameter and width. Some basic things you can do. So I'm having some of the younger students, the middle school, 6th, 7th grade students, just start off by making little snowmen. Well, like this one, just turn it on the lathe and just use a torch to darken the hat a little bit. Pretty easy, using just the CA finish on here. Some of the high school students, first year students, I'm going to have making these Christmas tree ornaments. This is maple, they'll probably use walnut instead of purple heart or something. It's pretty simple, 3 different turnings. Just drill a little mortise in here and turn tenons on the end of these 2 pieces of purple heart for the top and the bottom. So pretty simple. What we just did here didn't take too long. Still need to sand it, pretty simple snowman. They'll darken the end with a torch. So we turned it between centers. I'm not having the students part it off. Maybe down the road that'll be something they'll do. But for now, really simple, really quick little turning, just on the lathe basics. So as always, I want you to remember to read the manufacturer's safety instructions and operating manual. And as always, have fun and stay safe. Thanks.